Claire awoke to the gentle murmur of rain tapping against her window. The soft sound seemed to weigh on her chest, like the world outside mirrored the turmoil inside her. She sat on the edge of her modest Seattle apartment bed, staring at the email that had turned her life upside down. Her position had been terminated immediately. No warning, no transition, just a single line announcing that her livelihood was gone. Rent was due in a few days. Her savings were nearly gone, and the confidence she usually carried with her was slipping away like sand through her fingers. She tried to steady herself, but her mind raced with questions she couldn't answer. Claire had always been meticulous, the woman who paid bills on time, planned meals, and kept her life organized. Now, her carefully constructed stability felt like it had crumbled. Her apartment, normally a sanctuary, suddenly seemed cramped and suffocating. She thought of her landlord, Ethan Hale, a man whose calm presence had always been a quiet comfort. Unlike most landlords, he had a way of asking how she was doing that felt genuine, of remembering small details that made tenants feel noticed and valued. The thought of telling him she might not be able to pay rent twisted her stomach. She brainstormed solutions, selling her bike, taking odd jobs, borrowing money, but nothing came together quickly enough. It felt like trying to hold back a flood with her bare hands. Finally, after pacing and wrestling with anxiety, she sent a short message. "Hi, Ethan. Could we talk when you have a moment?" She didn't explain anything, feeling embarrassed and uncertain. Within minutes, he replied, agreeing to stop by in the evening. Those few words, simple as they were, brought a small sense of relief. As evening approached, the sky darkened to a soft gray and the rain persisted, steady and insistent. Claire reminded herself to stay calm, to explain her situation clearly, to not crumble in front of him. When the knock finally came, her heart raced. She steadied her hands, took a deep breath, and opened the door. Ethan stood there, but he wasn't alone. Behind him were two people she didn't know, strangers, and for a moment her carefully rehearsed words vanished. Ethan's hair was damp from the rain, his usual gentle expression in place, but the presence of others made her pulse spike with confusion. Why were there guests? Did he misunderstand her message? Her apartment felt suddenly exposed, cluttered with unpaid bills, rejection notices, and an abandoned cup of coffee. The strangers were friendly, their concern evident in their eyes. Mark, a man with warm eyes, and Lily, a woman exuding calm energy, carried a small box, presumably with food. Claire's chest tightened at the unexpected gesture. Ethan's reassuring smile and the kindness of his companions made her feel simultaneously embarrassed and comforted. Mark's voice was easy, gentle. "We're not here to pressure you. Ethan told us about your situation, and we thought we could help." Claire blinked, disbelief mixing with gratitude. Strangers offering assistance, summoned by her landlord, was beyond anything she expected. Ethan nodded softly, and a small thread of relief began to weave through her anxiety. Lily set the box on the counter, smiling. "Figured you might not have the energy to cook tonight. It's simple, but it should help." The simple gesture brought a warmth she hadn't felt in months, a recognition that someone saw her struggle. Words failed her as she tried to think them. Sensing her hesitation, Ethan stepped closer. "Claire, we just want to make sure you're okay," he said gently. The weight of kindness was heavier than any reprimand could have been. For the first time in days, Claire felt seen, her isolation softened by their presence. They gathered around her small kitchen table, sharing food, exchanging light conversation, and easing the tension. Laughter, tentative at first, bloomed more freely as they talked, beneath the surface of casual chat. An unspoken tension lingered between Claire and Ethan, a current of something deeper neither had yet defined. Every glance he cast her way seemed loaded with meaning, stirring emotions she hadn't allowed herself to acknowledge. The attentiveness of Ethan and the soft encouragement from Mark and Lily awakened a fluttering sense of possibility. A quiet excitement she hadn't felt in months. The rain outside continued, the rhythm of droplets against the windows, a soft backdrop to the intimacy forming in her small apartment. Claire realized she hadn't felt cared for like this in a long time. Perhaps not since her family had last gathered for holidays, before life had scattered her into independence and isolation. The presence of these people reminded her that human connection could pierce even the heaviest. Moments of despair. Ethan remained focused on her, careful, deliberate, measuring each gesture to provide support without overwhelming her. She held her breath, captivated by the warmth spreading in her chest, questioning why he cared so much and why he had brought others into this moment. Yet the hope she felt was fragile, a spark she hadn't dared to feel for months. As the meal wound down, Ethan leaned back, studying her, his gaze weighing each word to come. "Claire, I need to tell you why I came tonight," he said, breaking the gentle lull. The tension shifted instantly, a charged intimacy filling the room. Claire leaned forward, drawn in by curiosity and anticipation, ready to hear what he had to say. The room felt smaller, warmer, the rain outside pressing them into a bubble of suspended reality. Her heart fluttered, part nervous, part hopeful, as she realized she was holding her breath again. The presence of three people who had come when she needed help most made her understand that life, even at its harshest, could still surprise her with tenderness, hope, and unexpected possibilities. Ethan's voice remained soft but firm. "I didn't want you to face this alone. I know you're strong, but I also know the weight you've been carrying. I care about you more than I expected, more than I should, but I can't ignore it. I want to be here for you." Her chest tightened, and tears pricked her eyes, not from sorrow, but from relief, hope, and a warmth she hadn't felt in years. Words failed her as she processed his confession, the unspoken connection pulsing in the quiet room. He leaned slightly closer, enough to make her heart race, but not so much as to crowd her. "No matter what happens with rent, with your job, or how hard things get, you're not alone." "Not with me, not with them," he said, his hand brushing the edge of the table near hers, radiating warmth and reassurance. Claire blinked rapidly, trying to ground herself as reality shifted in ways she hadn't anticipated. A soft knock drew her attention. Mark and Lily returned, quiet but serious. Lily held out Claire's phone. "You need to see this," she said. Hands trembling, Claire accepted it. The screen lit up with an incoming call from an unknown number. Ethan's gaze remained steady, patient, giving her courage. "Hello," she whispered. The voice on the other end was calm but carried excitement. "Hi, Claire. We reviewed your portfolio and would love to schedule a conversation about an opportunity with our company." Claire's chest tightened, disbelief mixing with hope. She nodded, whispering, "Yes, yes, of course." The call ended, leaving a tangible wave of possibility and relief. She looked at Ethan, Mark, and Lily, feeling gratitude overwhelm her. Her life hadn't changed because of her own actions yet, but because someone believed in her, stepped into her chaos, and offered support when she needed it most. The rain continued outside, but inside her apartment became a place of fragile hope. A warmth spread through her chest, a mixture of relief, admiration, and emotions she hadn't dared to feel in months. Life, she realized, even in its darkest moments, could still surprise her. Claire's hands trembled slightly as she held the phone, her fingers gripping it as if it were a lifeline. The voice on the other end was calm, professional, yet carried a warmth that caught her completely off guard. Each word seemed carefully chosen, deliberate, yet it resonated with a sincerity that made her chest tighten in disbelief. The representative from the publishing company explained that they had reviewed her portfolio and were eager to speak further. asking if she could schedule a follow-up conversation. Relief and excitement collided inside her, making her pulse spike and her heart pound in her ears. She barely had time to process the information before she ended the call. Leaving her in a quiet apartment suddenly charged with possibility, Ethan had remained standing nearby, his presence steady, attentive, and quietly observant. At first, his expression was unreadable, but gradually, Claire noticed a softness settle over his features, a hint of pride, a gentle pride that mingled with hope. Mark and Lily lingered near the door, their expressions knowing but discreet, a silent acknowledgement that this was a pivotal moment for Claire and that their presence was no longer necessary. Claire's lips trembled, a smile forming despite herself. It was a fragile smile, tentative, yet brimming with relief, joy, and an unfamiliar anticipation. For the first time in days, perhaps weeks, she felt lighter, as though an invisible weight she hadn't fully recognized had lifted from her shoulders. Ethan exhaled softly, a quiet laugh escaping him, a sound that warmed the room and pulled Claire's gaze back to him. She had never noticed how soothing his presence could feel, how, in a single evening, it could disarm her fear and uncertainty. His eyes softened, and his usual restraint seemed to melt away, leaving a glimpse of something tender, something unmistakably human. Claire felt a warmth in her chest that she couldn't ignore, a gentle, insistent pulse that seemed to echo in time with the rain still tapping softly against the windows. Mark and Lily lingered for a moment longer, sharing supportive glances that conveyed encouragement, then quietly left, closing the door behind them with a faint click. The sudden silence left Claire and Ethan alone, yet the intimacy of the space felt electric, charged with a quiet, unspoken energy. The kitchen light cast a gentle glow over Ethan's face, highlighting the warmth in his eyes, the subtle curve of his lips, the way his gaze seemed to search hers with careful attention. Claire felt her pulse quicken, aware of a sudden tension, an almost tangible closeness that made the air between them feel heavier, charged with possibility. Her voice came out soft, uncertain. "I don't know what tonight was supposed to be, but I'm really glad you were here." Simple words, yet they carried a weight, a sincerity that made Ethan's chest tighten. Relief, longing, and vulnerability mingled in his eyes, reflecting the same fragile, unspoken emotions Claire sensed in herself. Ethan took a careful step closer, narrowing the space between them just enough that she felt the warmth radiating from him. It was a subtle intimacy, quiet and deliberate, like a promise waiting to be acknowledged. "Claire," he said, low and deliberate, "whatever tomorrow brings, you don't have to face it alone." His words wrapped around her like a protective cloak, reassuring yet exhilarating, filling her with a sensation she hadn't felt in months, being truly seen. Not just noticed, but understood. The weight of her struggles, the invisible burden she carried, seemed lighter somehow, softened by the sincerity and attention in Ethan's tone. The rain outside created a soft, rhythmic backdrop, a gentle percussion accompanying their quiet conversation. They spoke in low tones, their words mingling with the lingering tension of unspoken feelings. Each glance, each small gesture, layered meaning into the space between them. Claire noticed how Ethan's presence made her feel simultaneously grounded and exhilarated, paradox she hadn't experienced before. The storm outside became background noise, distant and irrelevant as the warmth of companionship. The spark of something more profound filled the room. Claire felt the gentle pull of hope intertwined with curiosity and anticipation. She realized how deeply she had longed for connection, not casual friendship, not superficial conversation, but something real, human, and tender. And here it was, in the quiet of her kitchen, standing across the table from her, steady, patient, and wholly present. The evening moved slowly, measured in small stories, soft laughter, and sincere confessions. Each moment strengthened a delicate bridge between them, a bond formed on understanding, care, and quiet recognition. Ethan mirrored her subtle shifts in expression, a small smile touching his lips, eyes soft, reflecting the same cautious hope and vulnerability Claire felt. They lingered in this quiet tension, a shared understanding, a silent acknowledgement that something significant had begun, even if neither fully named it aloud. Claire felt her chest expand, her heartbeat aligning with the rhythm of quiet possibility. This night had not only brought unexpected news about her career, it had opened a door to emotional intimacy, to connection, and perhaps even love she had feared lost forever. The warmth spreading through her chest was a complex mix, relief from months of uncertainty, excitement for the future, and a tender awareness of the fragile bond forming with Ethan. For the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to imagine a future in which challenges could be faced together, where support and care were freely offered rather than demanded. The loneliness that had weighed on her so heavily seemed, for the first time, replaceable by partnership, understanding, and mutual respect. Outside, the rain softened to a gentle drizzle, the city muted beneath its quiet curtain. Inside, Claire felt a profound gratitude for the twists of fate that had brought her to this moment, for Ethan's presence, for Mark and Lily's thoughtful intervention, and for the vulnerability that had allowed connection to take root. Even in the face of uncertainty, life had offered a chance at growth, joy, and unexpected warmth. The evening concluded with laughter, quiet conversation, and the soft, unspoken acknowledgement that what had begun tonight could evolve into something meaningful, rare and lasting. Claire leaned back slightly, letting herself breathe, feeling the cautious optimism of new beginnings. She understood that the support and care she had received could carry her through the trials ahead. Ethan, across from her, shared the same quiet openness, a reflection of mutual understanding and trust forming between them. Together, they had opened a door to friendship, to support, and perhaps to something deeper, something patient, tender, and lasting. In that rain-lit kitchen, Claire realized that the night, which had begun with fear, uncertainty, and the weight of looming challenges, had transformed into a turning point, a story of unexpected kindness, emotional courage, and quiet romance. Life, she understood now, even in its harshest and most overwhelming moments, could still surprise. Doors could open, opportunities could appear, and human connection, when least expected, could offer hope, joy, and even love. As Ethan gathered his coat, pausing to give her a lingering look, Claire recognized the profound truth of the night. She was not alone, and the future, uncertain as it might be, held the promise not just of survival, but of warmth, companionship, and the fragile, extraordinary beauty of human connection.